Have you ever walked away from a conversation thinking, I said that so clearly, how are they still not getting it? So you explain again, and then somehow the more words you use, the less understood you feel. And now you're asking yourself, am I bad at communicating? Am I just too emotional? Why does this keep happening to me? Most people think over-explaining is a communication problem. So they tell you to be concise and use fewer words, speak more clearly, and find a better way to say what it is you're trying to say. And you're made to believe you must be insecure or too emotional, too needy, just a bad communicator. But what if over-explaining isn't poor communication? What if it is a survival strategy? And trying to stop it without understanding it is actually creating more harm than good. Today we're talking about over-explaining, why it happens and why some people train you into doing it. Over-explaining is rarely about words. It's about what your nervous system is trying to accomplish through the words that you are using. Sometimes it's trying to secure a connection. Sometimes it's preventing a reaction or a rejection. Sometimes it's trying to calm your anxiety. And sometimes it's trying to earn permission to exist honestly. You see, words become our tools, and most people aren't just talking too much, they're protecting too much. And those are very different things. Many of our relational behaviors that look annoying on the surface are actually really intelligent adaptations underneath the surface. The same thing applies to people-pleasing or shutting down or defensiveness. And yes, even over-explaining. I'm going to guess that you don't over-explain to everyone. You probably do it with specific people, like people who interrupt you, people who twist your words, people who minimize your feelings, people who make you feel like clarity is a courtroom trial. So you're busy gathering evidence, examples. You notice tone adjustments and timelines, intentions. And it's not because you're crazy, but because something in you learned that if I don't explain myself perfectly, I am going to lose. That's the real issue. It's not communication. It is conditioning. Sometimes over-explaining is not the problem at all. It is the symptom of being in conversations where basic understanding is withheld. Some people actually benefit when you over-explain because while you're busy defending yourself, they never have to examine themselves. And while you're busy clarifying your tone, they avoid addressing their behavior. And while you're proving your intentions, they're able to completely dodge accountability. That means over-explaining can actually become a trap. And the more conscientious you are, the easier it is to hook you. Because thoughtful people assume misunderstanding is accidental. But unfortunately, sometimes it isn't. And that's why someone can sound calm, concise, and direct with one person and become rambling and frantic and circular with another. Same person, different environment. Because our communication style changes depending on our perceived safety. So before asking, how do I stop over-explaining myself? Ask, who am I over-explaining to? To be fair, not everyone who misunderstands you is manipulative. Some people are wounded, some people are defensive, emotionally immature, or poor listeners in general, but impact still matters. Whether it is intentional or unconscious, some people create environments where simple truth is just not enough. And in those environments, you will start to overfunction. Now, there are 7 core drivers of over-explaining that we're going to go over. The first one is preemptive defensiveness. So this is, let me explain every angle before you try to use it against me. These are the people who were misunderstood, blamed, or punished before, probably in their childhood. So now they narrate everything because they learned ambiguity is dangerous. So this is what it sounds like. I wasn't ignoring you. I was driving, then I got gas, then my phone died, then so on and so forth. They're not sharing, they're bracing themselves for the impact. When a person has been punished unfairly, details are what become their armor. Number 2, permission seeking. This one sounds like, if I explain it well enough, you'll agree I'm allowed to feel this way. So instead of directly saying, this hurt me, they build an argument because somewhere along the way, feelings in their childhood had to be justified. An example of this is prefacing your feelings by saying, I know maybe I'm being sensitive, or I know you were busy, but I know you didn't mean it, but that sentence reveals their history of having to ask for permission in order to feel something. So a good question to ask is, do you state your feelings or do you defend the right to have them? Number 3, regulating self-doubt. Sometimes people are not explaining to you. They're explaining to themselves. They talk in circles because certainty feels unavailable internally, so they process that externally. So an example of this is, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but if you look at it from this side, maybe this is the process of searching for clarity through their speech. Number 4, emotional flooding. Too much pain is going on inside with not enough structure or containment, so everything comes out at once. Thoughts, memories, pain, urgency, all arriving at once, so the words often come out chaotic. And this isn't manipulative, it's just overload. This is common when someone hasn't learned how to properly contain their emotions. 5, fear of disconnection. This one is so powerful. It is not, oh, please understand me. It's more, please don't leave this moment. So they keep talking in order to hold attention or avoid the silence or prevent emotional distance. An example of this would be if one person in a relationship says, hey, I just need a minute. And they instantly start talking more. And it's not because they're trying to be disrespectful, but because space actually feels like abandonment to them. And naturally, this often comes as a byproduct of attachment wounds from childhood. Number 6, habitual overfunctioning. Okay, these people are carrying every relationship in their life. They believe that if this conversation or this relationship fails, it's actually on me. So they compensate and they explain for both people. They don't just explain more though, they also fix more. They repair and regulate for both people in the relationship, and then they wonder why they're so exhausted in relationships. They are over-explaining not because they're unclear, but because they've been trained to carry the emotional weight of the relationship for so long. These are not weak communicators. They're just exhausted people. Number 7, intellectualization. Now, this one sounds smart, polished, insightful, logical, but emotionally absent. They can explain the relationship and the patterns that are going on perfectly without ever revealing how they feel. It's intelligence basically used as a distancing mechanism. So it's analysis over vulnerability. So an example of this would be, I think what's happening here is a mismatch in attachment expectations. Cool. But are you sad? Now I have to address this unfortunate truth. Some people over-explain because they're actually talking to people who are committed to misunderstanding them. And no amount of better wording can solve the problem of people who are unwilling to listen. Way too many people waste years of their lives trying to become clearer to someone who is invested in confusion. Some of you don't need to become more concise. You need to become more selective about who gets access to your explanations, because explanations are emotional labor, and some people consume them endlessly while offering nothing in return. Let me give you an example. Let's say we have Melissa, who is fighting with her boyfriend, Ryan. Every disagreement lasts 3 hours. She explains calmly, and he responds with she's dramatic. She explains differently. He says she's confusing. She brings examples. He says she's keeping score. She cries. He says she's too emotional. Now, Melissa concludes that she just must be terrible at communication. Melissa is in a system where every route leads back to her being wrong. That is not a communication failure. That is a rigged game. And the sad thing is that a lot of people end up in relationships where that is what they call love. Over-explaining is not stupidity. It's often the residue of relationships from childhood where truth wasn't enough, where no wasn't accepted, where pain was debated, where intent mattered more than impact, where feelings were cross-examined, so the psyche had to learn to explain better next time. And that adaptation deserves compassion, even if it is no longer serving you. So when this comes up, I want you to ask, what am I trying to get right now? Is it validation or safety? Maybe it's certainty or connection or just permission. And then I want you to meet that need directly. An example of this would be, instead of a paragraph, just say, this matters to me. Instead of defending yourself, explain, you don't have to agree in order to hear me. Instead of flooding emotionally, ask for a moment to gather your thoughts. Instead of chasing connection all the time, reassure yourself that silence doesn't mean abandonment. Or just directly state, I've explained this already. I don't need agreement to feel this. I'm not continuing circular conversations. I hear that you see it differently. This dynamic is not healthy for me. That is growth. It's not about using fewer words. It's about being more honest. So if you do over-explain, don't just call yourself annoying or needy or a bad communicator, because you just adapted to your environment. And you adapted to the people who made honesty difficult for you. You adapted to environments where needs required evidence. And you adapted to relationships where misunderstanding was probably a constant in your life. And even though that strategy may be costing you now, try not to shame this strategy. You can honor where it came from and then choose consciously to update it. Part of this process is asking the real question of, why did I learn that simple truth just wasn't enough? And an even better question is, who in my life still profits from me believing that? Now, if this video resonates with you, I want you to watch my videos on conflict, emotional safety, and authenticity next, because this pattern shows up in all three.